right, any parent of a teenager knows they're notorious night owls. Homework, electronics, and a steady stream of text messages conspire to keep teens up late. But school schedules almost always require them to be early birds. The result? A generation of exhausted kids. WGBH News reporter Stephanie Leyden kicks off our focus on kids under pressure.
At the Sullivan home in Brighton, the day starts early.
What's going on? 5:30.
Too early for 14-year-old Ryan, who, as usual, ignored his alarm clock.
Your alarm went off at what time?
5:15.
What's your reaction when the alarm goes off in the morning?
Like, ugh.
Mornings are especially miserable because Ryan only gets about 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night, much to his mother's distress.
Last night he was up till 11:30. When I went to bed, and I told him, you better get to bed, but he was finishing up homework.
But it's not just homework that's keeping Ryan up late. Even when he tries to fall asleep early, he can't.
I just sit there. I can't fall asleep at all. I just keep thinking and I don't fall asleep.
Blame biology. In sleep labs like this one at Brigham and Women's Hospital, researchers use blood samples to track melatonin, the hormone that tells our bodies it's time to sleep. As kids mature, melatonin is released later.
In a young kid, it will be happening at 7 or 8 in the evening, and then it precesses later and later and later until that hormone is not rising until 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening or even later.
So even if a kid wants to go to sleep earlier, they probably can't.
No, they can't. If they lie in bed, and they'll tell you this, I can go to bed earlier, but I just sit and toss and turn.
And Dr. Charles Seisler, who chairs the National Sleep Foundation, says that shift in melatonin release also tells teens to stay asleep later in the morning.
At the very moment that they're in their deepest sleep, we are resting them out of that sleep and asking them to get up, drive to school, and try to pay attention in class.
But few schools sync their schedules with the sleep needs of teens like Ryan, who is out the door at dawn. He catches a bus so he can get to school when the doors open at 7:10.
If you had it your way, what time would you get up in the morning?
Like 8.
Research suggests Ryan may have it right. A mounting number of studies show that in communities where school starts later, teens are less likely to be overweight, depressed, or involved in early morning car crashes. They also do better in school.
The evidence that starting school later has a positive impact on teen health and well-being is so convincing that the American Academy of Pediatrics has recommended both high schools and middle schools start no earlier than 8:30 in the morning.
20 years ago, we didn't realize that sleep was so important to learning. But now, there's no excuse for our sleep depriving our kids.
But there is this reality: change is difficult. 5 years ago, Sharon High School became one of only a handful in Massachusetts to move to a later start time. It used to be 7:25, now it's 8:05. It required compromise. Because the same buses service all town schools, the middle school now starts earlier. Family schedules had to change.
It can be a divisive discussion.
But high school principal Jose Labano says there's no going back. He says far fewer of his students are late, far more show up ready to learn.
They're not falling over sleeping on their desk first thing in the morning.
And they were before?
I think you always had an element of that.
Sleep in or fight the urge to sleep at school? A question that puts the status quo to the test.
We tend to think that kids in the old days had it harder, but when it comes to sleeping in on school days, that is not the case. 100 years ago, it was typical for high schools to start at about 9 in the morning. Yeah. Gradually, it has changed.
Wow, torture. I started at 9. Thanks for that,
Those were the good old days.
All right, this is a question that school districts across the state have been grappling with. Cheryl Maloney is the superintendent of Weston Public Schools, which considered a later start time, but ran into numerous roadblocks. And Mary Haymaker is the founder of the Massachusetts chapter of Start School Later. She's pushing for a later start time at Algonquin Regional High School, where her daughter is a student. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So you've tried this, and what happened?
Well, we studied it for 2 years. We had a committee of parents and teachers and faculty, and I think there all of us accepted the medical research, and there's actually more medical research on this. We know it would be best for kids to sleep later. What stopped us in our tracks were the logistics. I don't think those are insurmountable, and I think we'll go back and look at it
Why
again.
couldn't you just push the whole thing back? Because I know it started to interfere with them because of the school buses, the middle school, and it affected everybody. Why not just push the whole system back?
Well, when we talk about logistics, if you think about in the town of Weston, similar to Sharon, we bus all of our kids. We don't have neighborhood schools. And it takes about 45 minutes for us to sweep the town. So you can't start the elementary too early because of not wanting kids to be out in the dark. And then whatever time you get kids there, it's 45 minutes later that we would start. And the state law requires 990 hours of instruction for high school students. So to get all of that in, some free time during the high school day for kids to seek extra help, to make up tests, to have opportunities to use the library, etc. Those are the logistical challenges.
All right, I'm going to bring in Cheryl Maloney. She's, sorry, Mary Haymaker. Your group, well, you're basically it. You want to change the school hours.
Right. So there's a national organization, a nonprofit organization called Start School Later. And there are now 32 chapters across the country, Massachusetts being one. We also have 3 town chapters, Wayland, Westboro, and Concord. It's a resource for communities and frankly anyone who wants to get involved with the issue to promote change across the country to get kids going to school at a healthier time.
Okay, so some school districts have done this.
Absolutely.
Which ones?
Absolutely. In addition to Sharon, there Hingham, Nauset, I believe Marblehead. There's about 10 or 11. Oh, Needham is also.
And what are the start times?
They are between 8 and 9:30, or 8 and 8:35, I believe.
That sounds rather civilized.
No, it does, and it would be better for students to have an opportunity to sleep in later.
I mean, what time does Weston start now?
7:30, 7:33.
And when this kid Ryan, 7:10.
Yeah.
That's cruel and unusual.
Right.
That's really just. Don't you agree?
No, I agree. I
that's
think
right here in Brighton.
But he had issues with transportation. And
well, a lot of kids
Mary
do.
and I have been talking, and that's one of the logistical nightmares for most towns or cities. And in Weston, as I pointed out, that would be a concern and an issue.
Well,
in addition to the 45 minutes to sweep the town, the later we start school, the more challenging it will be for kids to get to the high school because of the commuter traffic.
Yeah, and we did have a good conversation on this, and we both agreed that, yes, these logistics are hard, but they are absolutely not insurmountable. Transportation issues are one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult. Fairfax County, Virginia, the 13th largest school district in the country, which apparently has a bus schedule that rivals Greyhound. They figured out the logistics, and they cover 360 square miles in a suburb of Washington, D.C. So I feel like if they can figure it out, we can figure it out.
Get back to me. It feels like one of these circular discussions we've had for the last 20 years. I don't know if that'll change. All right, Cheryl Maloney, thank you so much.
My
Mary
pleasure.
Haymaker, thank you so much.
Thank you.